Hello everyone. In linguistic morphology, today we will discuss sound and shapes, the interface between morphology and phonology. So we know that phonology and morphology are the distinct level of language. But in this lecture, we will discuss how they interact with each other. What is the relationship between phonology and morphology? How they are linked with each other. So, this will be our today's topic. Let's begin and learn in detail. Introduction to interface in linguistics. So, when we use the word interfaces, so we mean interaction, how two levels of language interact with each other. In linguistic theory, modules of language, for example, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, are distinct but interact closely, right? So they interact each other. So these interactions are called interfaces. So interface mean interaction between two or more than two levels of language, or how they are linked with each other at certain levels, right? Or what are the relationship between two or more than two levels of language when they meet with each other? How morphology interacts with phonology, sound patterns, and how morphology interacts with sentence structure. So this part will be discussed in the next lecture, while today we will be focusing on morphology and phonology interaction. What is morphology? A brief introduction. Morphology studies the internal structure of words, right? So when we talk about morphology, so we are referring that how words are formed, how new lexemes are formed, right? How we use a morphological process, okay? How new words are invented in a language. So these all are studied in morphology. Morphology also studies morphemes, the smallest meaningful units. What are free morphemes? What are bound morphemes? What are bases, stem words, and so on. And as well as types of morpheme. We are just discussing, okay, that what morphology does or what morphology is. Morphology also studies free morphemes that can stand alone, for example, book and run. While morphology also studies bound morphemes that cannot stand alone, they need other bases. For example, we have morpheme ed and we have morpheme an. They can't stand alone as words, so they need other bases. For example, when we use ed with play, it becomes played. And when we use un with kind, it becomes unkind. So kind can stand alone, that is a free morpheme, while un cannot stand alone as a word. It also studies types of morphological processes, right? That how words are formed. What are the word formation processes? What morphemes we use, prefixes, suffixes, and affixation. It also studies inflection morpheme, for example, dogs, walk. These are grammatical functions because inflectional morphology or inflectional morpheme, they do not create new lexeme, but they have only grammatical function to make like a noun plural from dogs, and to change grammatical context from the present to past, walked. Also, it studies derivational morpheme, for example, teachers, new lexeme, new words, because teachers, it has been derived from the verb teach. And we have, for example, happiness. Happiness is a noun. It is taken from the adjective happy. So happiness and teachers are new lexemes. They are taken from a verb and adjective. This one is from verb and this one is from adjective. Morphology and phonology interface. Phonological rules influence how morphemes are realized. So we have some phonological rules. For example, that if a noun ends with a consonant and that is voiceless, right? So we have, for example, morpheme S. So S will give the sound S. And if plural noun ends with like a consonant, that is a voiced one. Like we say d, dog and dogs. So the same morpheme will have sound Z. And if you have two-syllable word, for example, we have bus and we make plural buses, so we use is. So the same morpheme as s has different realizations, right? That is s and z and is. So this okay, we have phonological rules. Like if a consonant is voiceless, or how many syllables are there. So a single morpheme may have multiple pronunciation. As I told that we have s, it can have multiple pronunciation. For example, s, z and is. Or we have like a d. A d can give the sound d and it can give the sounds t, or it can give the sounds id. So different pronunciation. And these different realizations are known as allomorph, depending on phonological environment, that how this morpheme is used, right? Okay, like whether this morpheme is followed by a voice or voiceless consonants, and one syllable or two syllable, and so on. So we have rules. Case study, English plural morpheme, that is S. Plural morpheme has three allomorph. For example, we have in the word cats. So t, that is voiceless. So when we make plural of cat, so the sound will be cats. S will give sound s. And we have dog. So here g, that is a voiced one, right? So for a voice, if we add this, the same s, the sound will be z. Excuse me. So we will say dogs. The same s is here, but we say dogs. The sound is z. And we have buses. The same as morpheme is there, but we will pronounce at is because of two syllable. So these forms follow phonological rules related to voicing and syllable structures. Another example, that is from past tense id. For example, we have a word walked. So you can see that ed is used here, but the sound, that is t, because of the consonant k, that is voiceless. So we say walked. Similarly, we say played. The same d is used here, but the sound is d because of the vowel. Remember that vowels are all the time voiced. And then we have wanted because of two syllables, so the sound, that is id in the past form. So phonological conditioning form of morpheme depends on phonetics context. What are the rules? Morphological selection is sensitive to phonological rules. What are the phonological rules? If the rule is voice, voiceless, or syllable. Now, phonology and morphology, how sounds and words form work together. What is phonology? We define what morphology is. Now we are defining what is phonology. Phonology is a branch of linguistics that studies the sound system of language. It looks at what it looks at. What sounds exist in a language like p, b, and s. So it studies that what kind of sounds exist in a language, in Urdu language, in Pashto language, in English language. Secondly, phonology also studies that how sounds combine to form syllable and words. Different sounds are combined to make meaningful words or to form syllable. It is also the work of phonology. Similarly, phonology also studies prosody. What is prosody? Features like stress, tone, intonations. These are prosody, or we can call it super segmental features of a language, right? Now, how phonology connects with morphology? This is our topic for discussion. Morphology studies word formation and it connects with phonology in three ways. What are those three ways? One morpheme can have multiple forms that they are called allomorph, depending on how it sounds. Remember that we discussed There are different sounds, t, d, and id. We discuss s, z, and is. So this is okay what they talked about. That one morpheme can have multiple forms called allomorph. So these different realizations are called allomorph depending on how it sounds. These sounds changes often follow predictable rules. We have some rules. For example, that if the consonant followed by the morpheme, that is voiceless or two syllable. So the first one, we have multiple form. The second one, we have some predictable rules. And third one, sometimes foreign borrowed words behave differently in sounds compared to native words because they have been adopted or they have been taken from other languages, right? Now, what are allomorph? Allomorph are different sounds versions of the same morpheme. So one morpheme can have different variations, different versions. These different versions are known as allomorph. For example, we have the sound p. When p is used in the beginning, it has puff of the ear. And when p is used in the middle, so the puff of the ear it reduces while it is used at the end, so we don't feel any puff of the ear. So these are, we have three allomorph of the morpheme or the phone, that is f. Now they have the same meaning. They have the same meaning but pronounced differently depending on the context. So they have the same meaning depending on the context. For example, that we have some negative prefixes. In, im, and il, and ir, and ing. All have same meaning. That means not. Okay? But all of them have different pronunciation. In, im, il, ir, or ing. For example, intolerable. Intolerable or indecent. So intolerable means not tolerable, and indecent means something that is not decent. Impossible, something that is not possible. And illegal means there's something that is not legal. Or irregular, it means something that is not regular. Or incongruous means something that is not congruous. So these all have different pronunciations but almost same meaning. Now, what is unpredictable or partially predictable allomorphy? Sometimes the allomorphy will be predictable. We will have some rules, while other time we won't have rules. Sometimes words changes their forms in ways we cannot fully predict using phonological rules. So we cannot predict, okay, these phonological rules are applicable. So they are called unpredictable. This is called unpredictable allomorphy. For example, we have the verb sing.